Ahoy! There was once an idea to bring together a group of remarkable people and record a podcast on DC and Marvel comic books. And it's been a pretty good idea so far, right, guys? Yeah, it's just me this week. It's just Hunter. We had a kind of a difficult time scheduling a podcast to be able to be recorded this week, plus the whole weird thing with 250 and so on and so forth, which I'll talk about briefly this short episode. I did a solo episode a long time ago. It was just me talking about Hulk 2003, and maybe it did well. It got a decent amount of views on Spotify and YouTube, but it was obviously like just freestyling, which is what I'm doing right now. And it's podcasts are a lot better when you're with another person, which is why this is very short. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because there was a lot of stuff that happened in the superhero industry this week, and I was excited to record. I was taking notes. I watched the Marvels. I watched the Loki finale. Ton of great comics came out this week. We got the Variety news. I guess it's fairly new, fairly old, sorry, from like a week ago, and the Echo trailer and the strike just ended. So movies are back and the MCU delays and so much was happening. And I was kind of excited to record, but right now it is Friday night for me. And Tyler, Harper, and JD are all they all have this thing Friday night where they hunt people, kind of like how Craven does, but it's not a comic book, and it's kind of messed up. I don't get myself involved with this, but they select a target and they chase them like wild animals. It's scary, but it's not something that I want to fully get into. And so I'm like, hey guys, you want to talk about the Marvels? Tyler saw the Marvels, Harper saw Loki. It's like, let's talk about this. And they're all like, but our target is nearby. I'm like, okay, well, it's a full moon as well, I believe. So, you know, they're doing that. So it's just me this week. And the main reason I'm doing this is because we had someone named Nicholas reach out to us. And this was about a day ago. And he said that he has surgery happening and he's excited to listen to the podcast. And then the full moon happened. So I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to just leave Nicholas all lonesome. So hi, it's just me. Hopefully that's fine. But we'll see how it goes. I won't get into everything this week because I'm alone. And next week we are probably returning full podcasts back. I'm not even going to count this as 250 because it's just like a chit chat with Hunter. I guess you could say a Timmy's talk, except I am going to try to just talk comic stuff for a bit, which is why this is going to be a very, very short podcast. I listen to a couple podcasts that are only 20 minutes long, and it's just one person. So I'm kind of just rolling off of that. We'll see how I do. For comics this week, I did get some. I actually got some about an hour ago, so I haven't really gotten into them or anything. But I did get Guardians of the Galaxy #8, which I plan on dropping. I read it. It's very much okay. This series was advertised as a Western version of the Guardians of the Galaxy. That happened for 2 issues. And then they're not that anymore. They still have like Star-Lord still has the cowboy hat. They still have like that Western attire, but they're not doing anything with it. And before this run started, I read all the Guardians of the Galaxy books from like 2006 to today, and they all kind of bounce off of each other. They're very, very good. But this one doesn't do that. This one, Nebula joins the team for no reason. She was not a part of the team in any of the other Guardians books, so they're just kind of matching Guardians 3, which is that movie came out around the time this series launched. So I've been disappointed with it. Plus, it saves me a little bit of money if I drop it. Though I'm probably going to add another series. Shazam, Dan Mora, Mark Waid. It is fantastic as always. This book is incredible. The art is so good. The first page alone is so cool. I mean, it's a classic story. It takes itself seriously, but it has those classic roots, and I'm just going to say I like it. Chip Zdarsky's Batman hasn't been the greatest recently, but this new issue dropped, Mind Bomb, and it is very much just a detective story. There's a lot of red in the coloring right here. We don't usually talk about the colorist when it comes to Jorge Jimenez art, but the color is Tomio Mori, Moru maybe. Probably mispronounced that, but this is the Batman story that people should read. If JD was on there, I would show him this page, Batman entering a crime scene and just analyzing it and seeing what the cops on the scene don't see. And I mean that's enough. That's enough to get in. I hope to talk about this more in depth with Tyler next week because I believe he's still reading Batman. I think JD's the only one who dropped it, but it's great. For news and everything, like I said, we got a ton of MCU stuff mostly this week. The Marvels came out, I saw last night, and I really liked it. I know Tyler didn't. I know a lot of people didn't, but not for the reason where there's the very loud and annoying type of crowd that are angry that, oh my god, there's female superheroes on screen. We don't care about that. No, the people that don't like this movie that actually saw it opening night, they seem to be pretty valid with their criticism. The villain is bad, which is true. Like the villain is very boring in this movie. They're not really much of a character. She has a slight little storyline, backstory of what happened to her and why she's bad, and then that's really it. It's a really boring villain. The plot is a little rushed. This is, I believe, the shortest MCU movie ever made, so it is very rushed. But that being said, that means the pacing is very good. First scene in the movie pretty much gets into the whole power swapping dynamic that happens in this movie, which they don't always seem to stick to. The heroes do use their powers a lot when you think they would swap, but they don't. But they kind of explain it, so they're I understand the problems going in. The CGI isn't the greatest at times when there's action scenes and the camera's jumping all over the place and everyone's swapping. It looks great, but there's some scenes where it pans on like a city in space and the camera stays there for quite some time, and you can see people like far away moving around, and you can really tell the CGI is bad there. But I thought the movie in general was a lot of fun. It is a generic MCU movie. It doesn't really do much, nothing really new per se. Obviously, it's a new plot, there's a new gimmick, but it's not something that changes the MCU going forward, except the post-credit scene. But the movie in general is just it's a fun time. I laughed. I thought the humor was fun. I enjoyed it a lot. The action was very cool, and the trinity of characters here of Monica, Carol, and Kamala, they seem to work to me. Tyler mentioned on a story after seeing it that Carol Danvers has been around for like 4 or 5 years now, and we don't really know who she is. We don't know what her goal is. We don't really understand her yet. And he is right. Carol is this character right off the bat. She's busy, as she's been in every appearance we've seen her with. But now she has to work with these two new heroes, and she has to work together with them, and they're swapping places, and they get to know each other, which is great. We still don't really know what Carol's goal is, what she's been doing. She's helping people, but helping them do what? She's married now to a prince on another planet, but it's different than our customs of marriage. And so I get that, but I still had a lot of fun with it. If I were to rate it, I give it, I think, a 7. I understand the flaws. I still laughed. I still had fun. I was never bored during this movie. And most of my complaints are nitpicks, or it is a generic superhero movie in the end. But this is like I've done over 250 episodes of a superhero podcast. I like that stuff, so I understand the complaints, but I enjoyed it. That being said, right when it ended, I went home and I watched Loki, and that was a lot better. Now I understand why. I mean, like it is so much more of a better project. Loki season 2 in general was fantastic, and I hope to do a full review with like Harper and Tyler next week, maybe even JD if he watches it. But I don't know, like guys kind of quit the MCU in a way. But the finale was so cool. God of Stories. It's a great take on time travel and a character that could slip through time and pause time and be everything and everywhere all at once. He can go to any location where his physical body has been. He can go to any timeline. That's kind of overpowered for the MCU. That makes him like the strongest MCU character, but they put him in a place that makes sense. They put this god in an area where, yes, he's overpowered, but he has a job to do with this power. So it's not like he's going to be like with the Avengers and everything. A lot of people thought he would be maybe potentially building an Avengers team in the future, but he's a bit busy doing something else, and I will get more into that hopefully next week. Next week being perhaps 250. I guess I'll get into that now. Episode 250, we had an idea and it all lined up to release on Halloween. I'm not going to say exactly what this idea was, but we were combining two ideas. One was like a huge like milestone moment for a hero story, and one was something very silly that we thought about, and we're like, what if we combine these two ideas? And I will tell that story when the others are with me, when I have their consent to tell the story, I suppose you could say. But it we were basically, it was dumb, but we all were down for it. And now the silly thing was based on Halloween, but Halloween is obviously past and 250 hasn't happened. And the reason was because 250 we had a guest lined up. I'm not going to say who that guest was, but this writer is fairly big, very big, actually, not fairly. And they were down, and we contacted the company that they are currently working for, and they gave us the approval, the okay, you guys are good to go. They reviewed a hero story and they said, yeah, we can have them on. But then that writer got busy, or the company they were working for was, they said they couldn't work on this day, so Halloween wasn't going to work, but maybe next week will work. Next week didn't work for that writer, so maybe the week after that. And we've just kind of going back and forward over when we can actually do this episode. So we wanted 250 to be this big interview like what we did with Mark Waid, and it kind of, I mean, like, the writer is down, the company that they work for is down, so it's still gonna happen, but it's been delayed so much to the point that we've stopped doing the podcast for a while. We've still been putting out content. We did the Black Adam video last week. We did something the week before, but we've still been putting out content every week. But we can't do that forever. We thought about, okay, we'll do Timmy's Talk next week, and then maybe we'll resume a Hero Story Dungeons and Dragons after that. So we have content ideas that we want to do. Maybe we'll bring back book club again, and maybe we'll think of another show that we can do. But the strike ended. You know, Variety put out that article. The Marvels came out, Loki came out, Echo trailer. All this news is coming out that we all wanted to talk about. Most of us want to talk about. I don't know if they all want to talk about the Marvels with me, but we're getting news every week, and comics are coming out every week, and we just kind of want to get back into news of the week, comics of the week, general discussion. How's everyone doing? Like hour and a half to 2 hours every single week. We want to get back into that, and we don't want to be like, hey, 250 is just this regular episode, so maybe we'll do 251 next week, and then say 250 happens whenever that writer is available, which is taking a little bit. But you know what's going to happen. We had a guy message us on a hero story named Anderson asking if we're doing 250 or another filler. It's another filler, but podcasts will resume next week, hopefully. I mean, I thought it would resume this week, but everyone got busy with the hunt happening. Oh, Spider-Man 2, that was a thing we did 2 weeks ago. So we could still do this. If you guys want us to return to the regular podcast format, let us know. Otherwise, we could just keep doing filler. We could bring back Dungeons and Dragons. We could bring back Timmy's Talk. We could do like weekly Timmy's Talks. I want to do a Halloween special. Maybe we could do a late version of that. Maybe we could talk Star Wars, a hero story, Star Wars story. So we have other ideas here. We just gotta, we'll see what happens. Variety article came out recently. That was a big news that we all wanted to talk about as well, with the whole Blade thing. For those who don't know, the Variety article criticized the MCU, and it seems to be a pretty real article saying Marvel is panicking right now. They were the kings of cinema, and now they are still making a lot of money in theaters, but Do many people care about the Eternals? You go online and you just see people complaining about Disney Plus shows being just filler essentially. And even when people like it, people argue. A lot of people love WandaVision, but at the same time, a lot of people argue that it's not good. A lot of people love Moon Knight. You guys know that I argue that Moon Knight sucks personally. So people are just arguing over these movies, but when Infinity War came out, everybody loved that. Endgame came out, everybody loved that. I know those are the juggernauts, but the Captain America trilogy, people love. Iron Man 2 and 3 gets, they have their haters, and I'm kind of one of them, but at the same time, people love Iron Man. Do people love these new characters that you're just introducing us to? Some of them, yeah, it seems like a lot of people love Shang-Chi, but not everyone loves, like, I don't know. I was gonna say Kate Bishop, but I think most people do love her, so you know what I mean. It's just becoming too much, and Marvel seems to know this, and Kevin Feige knows this, so they're trying to pull it back a little bit and realize, okay, what are we doing here? Should we cancel the Vision show? Should we cancel the Wonder Man show? We are for sure rewriting the Daredevil show. So it seems like they are realizing their projects should be events. Not in the way like a comic event where it's a crossover between everyone, but like Loki, it felt like an event. It felt like it did something to this universe. But shows where you just introduce a character could be good. I enjoyed Miss Marvel, but it didn't feel like it did much to the universe. The Disney Plus stuff, that's still fairly a new idea for the MCU when you look at from when it started to now. And for like 12 years of the MCU, it was just movies. And we were introduced to these characters in the movies. Ant-Man first appeared in Ant-Man, yeah, but you also get Black Panther first appearing in the Captain America movie, that which led into a Black Panther movie. So I think I missed that, and I want that to happen again. And I think Marvel's starting to realize that too. TV shows can work. Loki's proof of that, and it seems like Daredevil being like a long series is proof even more. So can happen. The whole Blade thing, as they said, Blade went through like 4 rewrites, and one of them was Blade being a mentor towards a younger vampire who's like learning to be like Blade, and Blade is teaching her to take the mantle of Blade, even though this is the first appearance of the MCU Blade. That was a big criticism of one of the scripts that was made that was turned down at Marvel and being rewritten. One of the writers, the third writer for Blade, who wrote the most recent script before the current one and looked over the past two, said that that wasn't true, that he never read anything like that. And the Variety article seems to be lying about that. So I don't know, that could be true. Maybe the writer's lying, but I kind of believe the writer here at this point, because why would you put that in an article when there's people out there that know the truth about this? So maybe they just did that for clicks. Maybe they did that for the drama of Blade. Maybe they did for people to talk about it more, because right now I'm talking about it to you guys. So I don't know. The current writer is the guy who wrote Logan. So that's pretty good. And I don't think this is a rumor. I believe this is true, that Blade will be an R-rated movie, which is pretty crazy, because Deadpool's going to be the first R-rated MCU movie, Deadpool 3, and now Blade. Deadpool also the first MCU movie to release, or sorry, the only MCU movie to release in 2024. Captain America, Thunderbolts, and Fantastic Four are all being pushed to 2025, which is, I think, a good thing. A lot of people seem to be saying it's good. We only have one MCU project next year, but we also have Echo and Ironheart and Agatha, and maybe something else that I can't think of. What if? Maybe another Disney Plus show, but Deadpool is the only movie releasing next year in the MCU with no like series counting with that. I think that's good. Gives people a breather from the MCU. It comes out the middle of the year, I believe it comes out in July. So it works. I think that's a good thing. And people are excited for this. It's not like they're releasing a movie that not many people are excited for in the middle of July, or like a new character that not many people know. People know Deadpool. They obviously know Wolverine. So I think this is a good movie to have in the middle of the year. It'll bring the hype back. It'll bring the event back. It'll be a while before we see this movie. And now People are going to say Marvel's back, but people were saying that today because of Loki. I need a sip of water. Give me a moment. Oh, I lied. That was like 4 sips. But yeah, I mean, we'll see if a hero story returns next week. This is, like I said, this was going to be a very short kind of like catch up with you guys and let you know what's going on, let you guys know what 250 and the future of a hero story. This is a podcast where we have a pretty dedicated small audience. People seem to really enjoy what we put out. We have an average of, I think, 1,500 a week, combining YouTube, Spotify, SoundCloud, and Apple Podcasts. And every single week we get around the same viewership. Sometimes there's more, like when we talk about that one guy that made that Spider-Man fan film, and sometimes it's less when it's just me talking to a camera by my lonesome. But we try to put out content every week if we can't. It's because we're all busy. We're all in our 20s and we all have jobs and lives outside this. But we enjoy talking to you guys, and we've been doing this for 34 years now. And even though we don't get paid for it, we do it for fun, and we do it because we like it, and it helps us keep up to date with comics and news and everything. Like I probably wouldn't be reading a lot of the comics I am today if it wasn't for a hero story, but a hero story makes me thankful that I am reading these because they are very, very good. I like it. I don't think I would be reading Nightwing right now if it wasn't for a hero story, but I'm enjoying it. So I appreciate this podcast, and I don't want to ever stop this podcast per se. I enjoy making this content every week, and yeah, even though it's just me having a conversation staring at a lens. But thank you for listening to this little catch up. Good luck with your surgery, Nicholas. I got the name right first try. And we'll see you next week for 250 or 251, we'll call it. If it's called 250, then get excited for our super secret guest here. But yeah, with that being said, for your story, I'm JD. I'm Harper. I'm Tyler. And I'm Hulk 2003. Thanks.